A hospital in Kent was left to treat patients in their on-site cafe, I think it was a Costa cafe or something, after turning it into a makeshift ward. Should more hospitals do this? Do you think using cafes is a good way to make much-needed bed space? Or do you think hospital cafes are actually a vital lifeline for visitors and staff alike? Looking forward to hearing from you on this one, 862 22 22. But, you know, the older we get, the more of us end up spending either more time visiting people we love in hospital or indeed in hospital ourselves. And Sarah, you've had quite a lot of experience of that one.
Yes, so I've kind of experienced this. I had cancer surgery 7 years ago, and I just remembered when I read this news story that I spent 3 days in the recovery room where you're supposed to spend like a couple of hours and then be moved onto the ward. And while I was waiting for a ward bed, I was waiting for 3 days in the recovery room, which is not equipped for recovering for any type of surgery, let alone cancer surgery.
So what do you remember about it?
I just remember being really disorientated, and part of the issue was that no one really could explain to me what was happening. And I think that might have been because they were embarrassed to say, like, they don't want to say there's no bed for you on the ward. So instead, I was sort of in the recovery room and I knew that it wasn't quite right. And, you know, you're sort of confused and like still like woozy, and like I'd had this major bowel operation. And yeah, I just couldn't understand what was going on.
Imagining, you know, when you do get your bed in a ward, you've got somewhere to put your clothes and your shoes and your books and your phone and, you know, and there's a loo somewhere and there's just, but in the recovery room, there's none of that.
And my poor mum had come along for me to have this cancer surgery, and then she was like hanging out in the recovery room, which again isn't equipped for visitors to sit comfortably. I was there for 3 days.
So if I say the cafe, should they be converting cafes and putting beds in cafes? What do you think of that?
I mean, I don't think that's a solution either. I think, because, you know, at the end of the day, if people are recovering from their surgery in the recovery room, then at least my mum could have gone to the cafe to hang out. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
But,
I memean, Penny, we won't go into details, but, you know, some of us spend a lot of time hospital visiting, and you're one of those people recently.
I have. And I would say that the problem for me with cafes is the fact that, you know, if your stomach's in knots because of the fact that you're a bit worried about whatever is going on elsewhere, you don't really want a sort of a cafe per se. You just want to be able to sit somewhere with something warm. I mean, I wanted some soup, to be honest. I wanted something nourishing, and all the word was sort of, you know, I don't know, cheese sandwiches and that sort of thing. And actually, I'd have preferred that. And I think, you know, the issue is we haven't got enough beds. No. So therefore, why not convert the cafes convert them into another ward and then have a really good machine? I mean, you know, like miso soup, for example, you know, just pour boiling water on it. I mean, that would have been...
I suppose we've got, you know,
about staff.
There are definitely hospitals, aren't there, JJ? And I know you've been visiting at some of them too, where the staff eat in the cafe along with everybody else. Some have special staff canteens, and some don't seem to have those. And you know, if you're doing a long shift as a doctor, a nurse, a porter, a ward orderly, whatever it is, you need proper food, not just a machine with some miso soup in it. You need a proper meal, don't you, really?
The issue isn't that we don't have enough beds. The issue is that we have bed blocking. We haven't got enough social care for people to be discharged afterwards. There's people in hospitals now who could have been discharged 2 weeks ago, but there's no one to take care of them afterwards. That's the issue. If you take away the cafe, that gets filled, then next you'll be putting people outside in the smoking area instead. We're going to continually run out of space until we can fix the social care system. Me personally, when my mother had her first stroke, I was age 10, going to hospital to see her every day for like a year, 2 years. The cafe was the space I could go to have my dinner, have some food, after sitting with her for 2-3 hours, then go home. I think we cannot get rid of those areas. When people are going to hospital to visit someone, like, as you said with your mum, sat by your bedside, then she has to go and have somewhere where she can, OK, let me relax for 15, 20 minutes and then go back and see you again. They're far too important spaces to lose.
But we've reached the stage, haven't we, Sarah, where hospitals actually advertise for corridor nurses to look after patients in the corridor. And we know what a corridor is. It's a thoroughfare. It's just everybody walking through.
Well, that's what it felt like for me. It was just this intermediary space. I think it bears saying that when we talk about hospital beds, we aren't strictly just talking about beds. You are talking about the cost of like tending to that bed as well. So you're talking about the nurses, the porters, just keeping that person in that bed fed and alive. So I'm not sure if it's fully... I don't think we can say that it's just about bed blocking. There still aren't enough beds, and by beds we mean like
physical
beds and
places to
everything
put them
that
in.
goes
Yeah.
wrong goes with it. Yeah.
Yes,
But it's
so
also our
can I just say the
population.
number's 02078622222, and we really would like to hear from you on this. If you work in a hospital, how important is the cafe to you? Maybe it really is the place that keeps you alive. It keeps you, your blood pumping because you've got to have something to eat. You've got to eat there because you haven't got time to go home or anywhere else. And are you working in a hospital where you are maybe caring for people in corridors? And maybe you're somebody who's been, just like Sarah, looked after somewhere that wasn't right at all. It wasn't purpose built for patients to recover in, and it's deeply unsettling, isn't it? And I took a call from a ward sister, and she said that she had spent something like 7 hours of her shift trying to get a man in his mid-80s who was very unwell a bed. That's what she'd been doing.
Yeah.
And it is very distressing for everybody concerned, because that's the point, is because, it's not as though the staff are kind of going, oh, yeah, it's fine, we'll just stick them there. They're not like that. That's the whole thing, is that they're trying to do their best.
Of course.
But their best, it involves...
Thwarted.
Yes, it's thwarted.
And I think it's incredibly unhelpful and distressing to say the NHS is broken. But if we are treating patients in a Costa coffee in a hospital, what does that look like, for goodness sake? Let's talk to Christy, who's on the line in London. Christy, hi. I can't believe we're really even asking this question. Should we close cafes and put beds in them instead? What do you think about this?
Absolutely not, Vanessa, and hi, everybody.
Hi.
I was a nurse for many, many years, started off healthcare. I didn't get my registration, but I am disgusted, Vanessa, because number one, it's not sterile. Number two, with patients having severe operations for certain conditions that are life-threatening, if you like, putting them in a cafe is not acceptable. They closed all the hospitals after COVID. They should be reopening them because, yes, we are overpopulated. We are over full in the hospitals. And no, they should not be put into cafes or in corridors left waiting.
And Christy, explain from a nurse's point of view, when Sarah has had this incredibly important, I'm imagining it's pretty much a life-saving operation.
Yeah, for cancer, for bowel cancer.
So it's not some joke, it's a very, very important life-saving operation. And then they literally, Christy, have nowhere to put her. So they leave her in the recovery room for 3 days. And she's a real person, she's right here with feelings and thoughts, and she's been extremely ill. How do the nurses and doctors, Christy, feel about that when that's going on?
Well, they have nothing. They can't say anything because the managers. I mean, bring back matron for God's sake. The managers are not running as it should be. That it's not professional anymore. It is just a complete and utter smokescreen for everybody, because not only are they waiting for appointments, when they do get appointments, they're still having to be left around either in the emergency rooms, the outpatient rooms, the recovery rooms, and now they're talking about no.
Christy, I
I'm
thank
sorry,
you so
but-
much. Thank you for ringing. And also the other awful thing is when the ambulances arrive and they have to wait in the forecourt because they can't decant their patients anywhere. And that's a complete waste of the brilliant medics and paramedics who are just sitting there. And as for the patients, oh my gosh, it's almost unthinkable, and yet it keeps happening. Let's go to Catherine in Somerset. Catherine, should they get rid of the cafes and put beds there so that they can accommodate more patients?
Absolutely not. It's a place of refuge when you're visiting people or you're having time to kill. Going to the restaurants or cafes is the way to pass the time. All they need to do is up their game food-wise. Now, I was in hospital and I had to wait all day for a bed. And when I finally got a bed, I got a consulting room with a computer and a desk, and actually did have a wash basin. But I thought it was marvellous because I had a room to myself, it had a door, and it was wonderful. And when I walked to the toilet, all the cubicles where the curtains were drawn, where the doctors do examinations, people were sleeping in there in beds. And I thought it was wonderful. And when I got turfed out the next morning, I was a bit disappointed.
I mean, do you know something? That call, I've never heard of this before. It's the first time I've ever heard of this. A patient being put in the doctor's consulting room in a bed because they've got no bed for her on a ward. I've never heard of this before. Catherine, you might end up in the newspaper for that one because we've never heard of that. We know about corridors, we know about cafes now, but we didn't know about this, did we?
No.
Doctor's
Well, I wish
Wish
consulting
I'd known.
room.
It sounds way better than a recovery room.
But it's not ideal because where's the doctor meant to see the other patients? I mean, in every way, that's no good, is it?
And also, it feels a bit wrong to have a sort of computer there with all that stuff. I
Just
mean,
the
I know
whole
you'd
thing
have to
feels
go,
all
the whole
wrong
thing
because it
feels
is
very
wrong.
weird.
That's not what it's designed for. We
Feels
don't
like an
expect that. My
emergency.
goodness me. You learn things on this show every day. I can't believe that one. Thank you, Catherine, so much. And thank you all for your calls on that subject.